This is Jonathan Agatha for Pro Boxing Fans with the final press conference for John Ryder's world title shot against Callum Smith. I'm joined by trainer Tony Sims. Tony, how have you had to prepare for Callum Smith? Has it been different to anything you've prepared for with John before?
Well, you know, we've been preparing for the last year really, since John's become the mandatory. You know, we took a risky fight in between in Vegas. And but apart from that, we've always been thinking we're going to fight Callum Smith for the world title. So, you know, this day's come. John's preparation's been great. We've had great sparring, you know, really good sparring, and he's in a fantastic condition mentally and physically.
You said in the press conference that Callum and his team have been talking about that date at Anfield next May, Canelo, Kovalev, Golovkin, whoever else. Do you believe they have taken their eye off the ball with John?
I believe that without doing so intentionally, they have. And that's what I was trying to explain. As a human being, you know, if everyone's asking you a question about, and that is the question that everyone's on everyone's lips, is Anfield, the big names. When you're answering them questions, subconsciously in your mind, that's what's going on, and it's easy to take your eye off the ball. I believe Joshua took his eye off the ball against Ruiz. It's easy to take your eye off the ball when, like, Joshua's getting asked question after question about Wilder and the Fury fight looming, you know, and he's not even thinking about Ruiz. And that's exactly the same, I believe, that with, you know, with Callum Smith. And I've got the utmost respect for Callum Smith as a fighter, but it's easy to do that. And, you know, when you're constantly peppered with questions about Anfield and, you know, the big names, why would you be thinking about John Ryder? You know, so subconsciously I believe that they are thinking about that. But in the return, what I'm saying is all John Ryder's thought about for the last 12 months is Callum Smith. That's all he's thought about. That's all that he's been in his mind. You know, and that's the difference in the mental preparation for this fight. Now, whether John wins the fight on Saturday is down to John, but one thing's for sure is John can punch with either hand, and if it starts having a trade-off with both of them, you don't know who's going to come out on top there, you know, because either one of them can land a big shot on each other. But what I'm saying is mentally John's prepared and physically he's prepared for this fight to go to war on Saturday night.
Has that confidence come from the fact that John Ryder's had 4 successive wins? You spoke about the one in Vegas. Is that where that sort of confidence come from, the fact that John is on that winning run and he has the sort of pedigree recently to challenge Callum, perhaps give him his biggest test?
Well, what we were saying earlier in the press conference is since he's moved up to super middleweight, he's been the fighter he was when he first begun his career. When he first begun his career as a middleweight, you know, he was knocking everyone out, you know, and we thought he was going to go on to do big things, but the weight got the better of John. And you know, when you're weak on the weight and you're doing the weight wrongly, it comes out in your performances, and it was coming out in his performances middleweight. But since he's moved up to super middle, you know, he's had 6 fights up at super middle, and he lost a split decision against Rocky Fielding that I felt we won. He won that fight. He had Rocky in bad trouble in the 10th round, like all over the place, and he should have finished him really, but he didn't. And but he's progressed since then, and I don't believe he's been beat at super middleweight in my eyes. You know, and as you say, the last 4 fights, and that's why I was talking about the Jamie Cox fight, because in the Jamie Cox fight, he'd just come off of an hard fight with George Groves. You know, and everyone was saying George Groves was the biggest puncher in the division at the time. You know, George done him with a body shot, and in Jamie's very next fight, it was 1 punch to the head, and the fight was over in the 2nd round. So, you know, John can proper hurt you with either hand, and you know, this fight's going to be a tough fight, and John's ready for it.
He's ready for them. Should he get past Callum Smith? I know you won't be overlooking him, but there's so many big options out there. Billy Joe Saunders holds the WBO title. Are those the type of names you would be looking at should you come through Saturday night?
We ain't looking at nothing else other than this fight, and you can't look beyond this fight. And that's going for any fighter. Don't look beyond the fight that's in front of you. the opponent in front of you is just as dangerous as the next one. And once you start overlooking them fights and your mind's somewhere else, it's when things can go wrong. So, you know, let's get this fight out of the way Saturday, and then you think of your future.
For you, does John win this fight by points or knockout?
There's going to be no points in this fight. You know, they're both big punchers, both of them, so there won't be no points in this fight. I don't think so anyway. And you know, I don't think John's going to go in there to try and win a points decision either.
Just want to talk about some of your other stable. You've got Felix Cash, who beat Callum the other week. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I thought Felix performed well. He'd been out of the ring since February with injuries, and you know, he's come through them injuries, and we was presented with a Callum fight, which was never going to be an easy fight. You know, another kid who's very, very big on the weight. But I felt Felix Cash dealt with him professionally. He was hurting him in every round. He never felt in any particular trouble himself in the fight. And I always thought that was gonna happen in that fight. You know, that Felix would eventually get him out of there, which he did so in good fashion. And he's got a great future ahead of him.
One thing that didn't go your way was obviously with Ted Cheeseman falling short against Scott Fitzgerald. How's he been? I know he's very emotional after the defeat. Does he still have the drive to come back?
Yeah, Ted's just a young kid, you know, and he's been in some hard fights for a young kid. And, you know, I thought he won that fight. I really did. I thought he boxed smart on that fight. I thought he won the fight. I mean, now one of the judges had him 3 rounds down. It was just amazing, because the way I looked at it, you know, the judge must have had the fight going into the 9th round all level. And I thought Ted was skating all them early rounds. He never got hurt by Fitzgerald. I thought he boxed smart. Fitzgerald come back into the fight in the last 2 or 3 rounds, but I thought we already had it wrapped up by then. So, you know, it's a lesson learned that, you know, you got to keep, even in the last 2 or 3 rounds, you got to keep pushing. And he's really young. You know, he's only just turned 24. He's just a young kid. So I sat down and spoke to him, and it's the same as the Conway fight. I had him well winning that fight. You know, he's just been really unlucky with the judges. You know, and that's why I think he was so emotional and so disappointed that he puts his heart into these fights, believes that he's won, and people believe that he won the fight. You know, Eddie Hearn thought he won the Conway fight. Eddie Hearn thought he won the Fitzgerald fight. If you asked Eddie Hearn, do you think Fitzgerald won that fight, he will tell you no. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, and that goes for a lot of people. You know, and that's no disrespect for Scott Fitzgerald. I think he's a fantastic fighter. But like I was saying there, Ted was mentally prepared and physically prepared for that fight. And, you know, I believe he won that fight, and he's still got a great future in front of him. I think what we're going to do next year is probably take a couple of 8-round fights in. He's got still a lot of stuff that he needs to work on. You know, and I think by maybe later on in the year, then go back in for the British title again. And, you know, by that time, he'll have a lot of experience on his side. The things that he needs to work on, I think that they'll come to fruition. And I think he'll win the British title back by the end of this end of 220.
Couple predictions I want to get from you, Tony. Saturday night, Deontay Wilder faces Luis Ortiz in this big rematch for the WBC heavyweight title. Is it repeat or revenge for you?
I think it's repeat. I think Wilder's a good fighter. He's very dangerous, very, very dangerous man. I think like the year down the line wouldn't have helped Ortiz with his age, and he's a good fighter, Ortiz, but I think Wilder will come on top, and I think he'll beat him again.
One fighter you know very well, Anthony Joshua, rematch with Andy Ruiz in a couple of weeks' time. Break that down for me. What went wrong in the first fight, in your opinion, and how does he win this rematch?
I don't know what went wrong, because I obviously wasn't in the camp with him, so I don't really know what went wrong. But I did speak to him after the fight, and he said he just got caught with the shot behind the back of the head and lost his equilibrium, and from then on it was downhill. So, you know, he made no excuses for the loss. Do I believe he can beat him? I I do believe he can beat him. I don't know how his camp's gone or what's gone on in his camp, so I don't really know about his camp. But as a person, I know Anthony will want to get revenge on Ruiz, and I think it's going to still be a difficult fight, because one thing you know about Ruiz is he's got very fast hands. He's going to be a lot better shape for this fight than the last fight, and he's the world champion, so mentally he's mentally he feels like he can't get beat, so it's going to be a really, really hard fight. But I think if Anthony Joshua, and this is what I thought after the last fight, I think if he boxes him smart behind the jab, moves his feet, he's got that height and reach over him. You know, if he boxes him smart, he can outbox him and outpoint him. But you know, that's with we have to wait and see what happens. But that's a very difficult fight with both fighters there. And I wouldn't like to make a prediction, but my heart is with Anthony Joshua, and I hope he does it.
Final one. Who is your pound for pound top three?
Top three. Canelo, without a shadow of a doubt, is number one. I don't believe anyone is even close to Canelo at the moment. Lomachenko's obviously in there as well. He's a number two. And number three, if Joshua beats Ruiz, then Joshua's got to be there. So, he could be the third if he beats him.
All right, Tony, appreciate you giving us some time today, and best of luck on Saturday night with John Ryder.
Nice one, thank you very much.